All right. Okay, the whole first section had to do with, please excuse my dear Aunt Sal, making sure that you do parentheses, exponents, then multiplication and division from left to right, and then addition and subtraction from left to right. Now, if I sat here and asked you, could you do it? I have no doubt that you would tell me you can. So what we're going to do is I'm going to see whether you can do it or not. I'm going to put a problem up on the board. I want you to do it just on scrap paper or on the back of your study guide. So I want you to do this problem. Ignore this one. I'll erase it in a minute. All right. Do that problem and get an answer. Write it down. Don't throw it out. And I'll make sure that you got the right answer. You do this first, right? Okay. Which is -18. Multiplication and division from left to right before you go back and add. You did addition before you did that division. So in other words, it should have been 18 divided by 9, then add the 4 to it.
Is this right?
Does that make sense? Yep. Yes.
Got it. Yep.
I mean, Colin's over here on the same island as you are. Yeah, yep. Colin, you and Joseph are hanging out together on the same island. Okay. You did, I agree with us, but from left to right, you're supposed to do the addition, or the multiplication and division. You should have divided it by 9, then added
It wouldn't have
4.
been better.
So it should have been negative, and what you did was you added these two together
Wait,
first.
did you add more last year?
Okay, do you see what I mean? Yep. There's a few people that were hanging out on that island too, but they heard me, so now they're erasing it and they're jumping ship.
We did one more of these.
Yeah, we will.
I know.
Make sure you do your multiplication and division before you go back and do your addition and subtraction. Yeah.
I had a different answer originally.
You were hanging out on the same island over here, I bet you.
I was trying to do it in my head.
All right, if you look at this, you've got 6 times -3 divided by, and the temptation was to look and go, oh, I know what 9 plus 4 is, I don't even need my calculator for that. So I'm gonna put 13 down, but there's no parenthesis there. So I've got -18 divided by 9 plus 4, that part needs to be done first. So that's going to give you a -2 that you're going to add a +4 to, so your final answer should be 2. Okay? Make sure you're doing it in the right order. That temptation of going, oh, my brain's smart, I can do this one real quick, is what threw you off on that. Okay, let me give you another one. And of course, you're going to have ones to do on your homework like this. Nope, nope. All right, do that one. think the other one, just because you probably go, oh, I can do this
Right.
problem,
I
is
just
what
thought,
let's do.
yeah, that, you gotta
Yep.
remember the order of operations.
Yep.
If you missed.
Yep.
Are you allowed to use calculators?
Yeah.
Like this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yep. Okay, the only thing I would say on this section is just be careful. It's not that you don't know how to do it, but problems can be deceptive sometimes. It's like they're trying to trick you, and sometimes it works. Okay? All right, so that's the whole first section. Well, not quite the whole first section. You also had the part where you had to plug in numbers for letters. So I'm going to give you one of those, okay? Try this one. A equals 4. B equals 5. C equals negative 0.5. Okay, and then I want you to do this problem. 8C plus AB divided by A. Give me an answer for it. That's negative for one thing. I don't know if that would have made a difference. It would have right there, because that would be a negative 4.
I wish the whole test could just be these.
I think you guys would probably do better on the test if I gave you one problem at a time. You know, I made you do the one problem at a time, but that's not the way life works, so, something happened.
What's the answer?
Okay, I think,
Yeah, 4. Yeah.
Okay,
It's-
that's-
It was 16 over 4. And 4.
it's
And
negative
16 divided by 3.
right, that's what happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Careless mistakes. Yep. Do you have an answer? You're working on it?
No, resolution type.
Oh, you can't do that unless you have an equal sign.
Oh.
If you, because, and the reason why
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't, Colin, is
Yeah.
because you have to be able to do it to both sides, and there's
Yeah.
not two sides.
I know.
Okay, so you, feel free to use your calculator though, because you've got 8 times negative 0.5, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got that, and then on that other side, I've got A times B, so what's 4 times 5?
20.
Okay, so that plus 20, and then I'm gonna divide that one. Okay.
Each.
Feel free to use
forgot
your
about
calculator. Okay, all right, moving on to the next section. Section 1-2 was all about classifying numbers, so you're gonna need to remember how the number classification system went.
Do we do the study guide at home? Or do we?
Do you
Study
can,
it.
you study, you can take it home, but when you go to take your test, it's
Right.
gotta be away.
But we do the test in here on
You're
Tuesday.
gonna do the test in here, yes. Okay, everything that we've talked about, remember, falls underneath real numbers. Okay, imaginary numbers are gonna come a little bit later. We have 2 main types of real numbers. What are they?
Rational.
Rational and irrational. Rational means I can predict what comes next. It'll look right. Rational. Yes, it is. It just don't look right on the board. Okay. So I can predict what comes next, and I can't predict. Is that right?
I think so.
Yes.
I don't know why it doesn't look right. Okay, so over here I have things like pi. Okay, it goes on forever and ever, and I don't know the end of it. 1/7. If you took 1 divided by 7 on your calculator, it would go on forever and ever and ever and ever. If I come over here to this side, the very small, oh, and remember this is an I, this is an R, this is a Q, unless you want to particularly write them out. Okay, smallest unit here is called what? Do you remember?
Natural.
Oh, wow. Way to read your study guide, Colin. Okay? All right. Natural numbers. Natural, without looking at your study guide, natural numbers include what? 1, 2, 3, 4, ... Right? Next out, we have whole numbers. Whole numbers include what?
0.
It includes the 0. Remember the word whole has an O in it. So 0, 1, 2, 3, ... Okay? Outside of that, what do I have? What comes next? Integers. Okay? Integers was a Z. What do integers include that whole numbers do not? They do. They include negative whole numbers, okay? So I've got the 0, 1, 2, 3, ... Y'all know that means it goes on forever, right? Okay? -1, -2, ... Okay. Then outside of this, I have the fractions or the decimals that I know what comes next. Like for instance, let's say I have 1/3. If I made a decimal out of 1/3, it's 0.3333333, and if I said what comes next, we go with 3. Okay? 0.25. If I said what comes next, it would be 0. Alright? So these are things that are not whole numbers, but they still fit underneath the category of rational. There really is nothing to understanding this. It's a matter of memorizing it. Okay? And then if they give you something, let's say they give you the square root of 13. Somebody take your calculator and do the square root of 13 for me. Do you have a calculator on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Square root. Oh, square root. I did it on mine.
Oops. Wrong button.
Does it ever stop?
No.
No. Okay. So if I were to round this, I would call it 3 point. I'm gonna actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put an approximate, which is a curly like equal sign. Okay. So it's 3.61. Now if I'm gonna classify it, what do I classify it as? If it doesn't stop, if when you do it on your calculator it doesn't stop, it's irrational. Okay, so this number right here is an I and an R. Irrational and real. What if I gave you 12 over 4? What is 12 over 4?
Irrational.
It's 3, right? Because 12 divided by 4 is 3. So then when I classify it, the very smallest unit it fits in is this N. So it's N, but understand if you're standing inside the N circle, you're also standing inside the W circle, and you're also standing inside the rational circle, and or the integer circle, and you're also standing inside the rational. So it would be natural, whole, integer, rational, and real. Okay? All right, everybody with me on that? Okay. There's really not a whole lot to understanding that. It's just a matter of memorizing that. Alright, you also had a few properties in that, and I didn't put the properties on your thing, but we talked about, identity property, okay, which means what number do you multiply by a number to keep its identity? It would be 1. The identity property of addition is any number plus 0 is that number. We also talked about inverse property, which if you're talking inverse property of multiplication, then you just flip the number over, okay? If you're talking about inverse property of addition, you add the opposite. So if I have a 4, the inverse addition is -4, okay? Now those are all in your book and they're highlighted in like a yellow section, I think, okay? I'm gonna tell you, there's enough other stuff. I'm pretty sure I didn't emphasize the properties because the properties like come and go. 1 second and I'll let you know whether I did it or not. Nope, I didn't. So I'm not worried about the properties. You don't have to worry about the properties. Now the stuff I just erased off the board, worry about, okay? All right, we skipped section 1.3. Now, section 1.3 was a stats section, okay? And you're going to find there's enough material for us to cover. The only thing in the stats section that was important, you've had it before, I think, I hope. Mean is like your average. Mode is the number that occurs most often. And the median is your middle number, okay? Now, that's not going to be on the test. There's enough other stuff. But that is the information out of that section. Then section 1.4, which is on your study guide on page 3, says write an algebraic expression from a verbal expression. You guys got to be able to go back and forth. Okay, algebraic.
So it's just like using the distributive property.
That, well,
First one.
not, some of these are where you see it with words and you have to put the expression on it, and some of it
Oh.
was distributive, yes, okay? So if I said, let's see if I've got an example of these, and they don't give you any in the book, but, hey there, I put your study guide up there, okay? And I'll tell you what I'm gonna do, Sophie, is I am going to send you the first video, which will be the video that you weren't here for, okay, because it's still recording, it's got about a minute left, okay? If I have a verbal expression, like the product of 4 and a number is 13, okay? There is my verbal expression. If they want me to make an algebraic expression out of it, I write it with numbers and letters. What does product mean? Multiplication. So I'm going to take the product of 4 and a number, so I'll just call it x, okay? You can call it n or whatever. Is your equal sign 13. Then if I ask you to solve for it, literally you're just going to divide by 4, and so your number is 13 over 4. Okay? Y'all with me? If you have it on this side, let's say I've got, that. Okay? Literally, if you can read that, all you have to do is write it over there. Okay? You can say the sum of x and 4 is 10, or you can say x plus 4 equals 10. Okay? As long as you write it down as you read it, you are good. Let me restart this.
I got 3.25.
Oh. No, it should be 6.